Welcome to another episode of No Talking During the Movies. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
And I am future star of my 600-pound life, Tank.
Tank is the Pink Panther, and I am Inspector Clouseau. I'm sure you if you saw our show notes for later, you derived where I got this one from. I try my hardest to work on the podcast, and Tank just drives me crazy. I thought that one was cute, and also I feel like that's a correct assessment.
When I get out of the shower, I'm bright pink, so that's a good call.
Literally perfect then. Yeah. I mean, like, what else is it? When I step out of the shower, I burn at the UV lights in my bathroom because I'm a vampire. So our question for today, I thought about this because I was watching a movie the other day, and it just, like, it was so obvious, but it wasn't a joke, because whenever I think of product placement, the first thing I think of is Wayne's World, because it's like the funniest. There you go. It's like the funniest product placement you've ever seen, but it's like on purpose. But this clearly wasn't supposed to be as bad as it was, and I was just like, that's a good question. So, Tank, what is the worst product placement that you have seen in a movie?
I think it's a tie for every Transformers movie.
Totally.
Because it's so crazy. It's like we're in the middle of a literal life-ending battle on Earth. This is the end of life on Earth. And they stop for an Xbox to turn into a robot. You know what I mean? Or what did they hit him with a Pepsi truck one time?
Yeah,
I mean, like, it's just...
It was something like a Transformer actually turned into like a Sprite truck or something. It was something dumb.
It's blatant and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, I think that anytime, Avengers has its version of that too. You know, frankly, but it's just not as blatant and it doesn't feel as gross.
I will say my answer does come from a Marvel movie.
Really?
Thor. There is a specific spot in Thor when the Destroyer shows up where it's like a shot of him blowing things up, and then it's like the camera is on like the opening of a convenience store, like a 7-Eleven or something, but it's not a 7-Eleven. And there is this blatant Dr. Pepper like vending machine right outside of the door just sitting there, and the shot stands on it for a good like second and a half before it blows up, and then I'm sitting in the theater going, me must drink soda now.
I'll be right back. I gotta go to refill my drink at the height of Act 3. I gotta go to a drink.
Yeah,
I get it, because you gotta make money off of that, you know.
Sure.
It is what it is.
But do you think when they make those deals, it has to be like the product has to be in frame for at least a second and a half?
Yes, I do. That's exactly how that works.
Which is such a pain, because I feel like they should have just sprawled out Dr. Pepper over and like occasionally just to like in the background, and then that works. But this is straight up a vending machine that they like panned on, and they're like, look at it, and blow it up.
Do you remember Little Nicky? Did you ever see that abomination?
Little Nicky. It sounds familiar. Why can't I think of it?
The Adam Sandler movie where he's the devil's son.
No, I've heard of it, but I never actually saw it. It's awful, right?
It's awful, but like in a great way. So
sure.
Little Nicky loves Popeye's chicken. Like the whole movie is him. So he's like, Popeye's chicken is fucking awesome. You know what I mean? So like it's and it's like funny. That's product placement that's used in a funny way, and sure. I'm good with that. I'm good with all of it. It's fine. It's just some of it feels really gross.
Sure, because here's the thing. I think product placement is fine unless it's moments like what we just said with Thor or Transformers, where we literally go, oh, product placement.
I tell you what, I prefer product placement to pretending that actual brands don't exist. You know what I mean? Like, I prefer product placement to, guy drinking a beer that's a white can that says beer on it.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
I mean?
But, like, I also think of, like Into the Spider-Verse. That was my recommendation this past episode. And Into the Spider-Verse has a Coca-Cola product placement, except they changed the name of it just slightly because it takes place in the different universe. And that's how they, like, explain it. And I thought that was very interesting. Kind of an interesting way not only to do a product placement, because everybody knows that it's Coca-Cola, but it also explains, yeah, we're in a different universe where the C is instead it's a K, and it's just a slightly different universe. And I thought that was a very interesting way to do the product placement.
You know what I enjoy a lot? Universes that have their own standing brands.
I like that too. I mean, like
Red Apple cigarettes.
Right. Which that was always like kind of a joke, like not even a joke, just like this is a brand we're gonna keep using. But then it was actually at the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that we got a Red Apple cigarette commercial, which was
dope commercial.
Probably one of the funniest things we've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Out of a Quentin Tarantino movie. And I really do like that as well. I like product placements that like don't exist, but we kind of wish they did. Yeah,
absolutely. I love that. I love universe building, which is why I'm such a big fan of the MCU stuff. But especially when you have, like the SQ universe, they have cigarettes called Nails, which is their own cigarettes, and anything that has its own like beer or has its own, I love that. I it makes it more real to me, I guess.
But also like take I'm gonna use The Simpsons as an example. They have Duff beer, and it's such a cornerstone of the Simpsons brand now that when you go to Universal Studios, you can get a Duff beer.
Which is awesome.
How many people bought Duff beer because it's Duff beer? You know what I mean? Because they've watched this show forever, and now they're like, now I can actually know what it tastes like.
Every single person who bought it.
Right. And I
bought it because of that.
That's almost more impressive, even though now it's like it's not even a real brand. But anyways, we've moved on from product placement to fake product placement.
Right.
Which I think is interesting. But of course it's just us talking about what we like to see instead. But it works.
Sure.
So let's get into some of our trailers today. We've got two. Both of these movies. Well, I want to get your opinion on the first one first. Okay, so the first one is Chaos Walking, which stars Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley, and I guess it's based off of a very popular novel. I have never heard of this novel, but it's supposed to take place in a universe where it's like a new world. There are no women, and Daisy Ridley shows up to this world, and for some reason on this world you can see and hear other people's thoughts. Is that it, or is it just Tom Holland that's affected?
No, it's everybody's. It's everybody's. That's like one of the things that is freaking out the town folk about Daisy Ridley is they don't know what she's thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Which, it's interesting, but it's very odd.
Here's the thing. The cast in this is like superb. Like there's a lot of really great actors, and Nick Jonas.
Nick Jonas. Off of his Jumanji fame.
I found it to be stupid, honestly.
Really? Yeah, so that's the thing. I was watching it and I was like, why? This has so much going for it. Why am I not interested?
It's also, what's weird right now is that there's so much sci-fi right now.
Yeah.
Like sci-fi is like huge right now, and I don't really understand it, but this is like, I don't know, this is one of those things where somebody had the makings of a good idea, and then without completely fleshing it out, they just made the movie. Like I know it's based on a book or whatever, but I could see how maybe a book would be able to pull this off. But this movie, I don't know. I'm not writing it off just yet, but I can't really get with the thought bubble that they seem to be having all the time.
So I think the trailer just fails to explain a lot of things, because I had to rewatch the trailer about 3 times just to make sure I got some things right. Because there's even a point where some dude, it might be Nick Jonas, I can't remember who, is like getting in his face. And his thought bubble's going, snake, 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 snake! And then a snake shows up out of nowhere and, like, bites his face, and the dude, like, falls back. And I'm like, what is that? Like, it's very odd. It's just very odd.
It's like, it's what was the movie with Clive Owen where there was it's like Children of Men mixed with What Women Want. You know what I mean? Like it's just
I have
not.
no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds incredible.
Children of Men is where
I know what Children of Men is.
Oh, you don't know what men want is or what women want? They did two versions of it.
You're saying this is a Clive Owen movie where it's the two combined, though. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand.
No. This is those two movies combined.
Oh,
Children of Men.
Gotcha.
Because there's no more women.
Right.
And then
or there is women, they just can't give birth.
Right.
That's a great movie, by the way. Everybody should watch Children of Men.
That's your recommendation?
No, it's not my recommendation. Though it will be at some point, I promise.
I guess it doesn't really work. I guess that's not those really two together. But
my recommendation is going to be a vastly inferior movie to Children of Men.
Also, the first thing, if there hasn't been women in a long time, let me tell you.
Okay, I thought the same thing. I was like, this movie is gotta be PG.
Did you ever see Blindness?
Blindness.
With Mark Ruffalo?
No.
Okay, so it kind of reminded me of this, even though it's not really
a lot of movies.
It's not really the same like story or anything like that. But there's a disease that's going around.
Mm-hmm.
It's airborne, and when you catch it, you lose your sight.
Oh.
So it becomes a pandemic, and it takes over, and suddenly everybody's blind. So they put people into these camps for blind people, but then all of the military and everybody maintaining the camp starts to get it too. So these things just fall into disarray. So all of a sudden, the people who were born blind, who have been blind their whole lives, they become the leaders because they know how to live blind.
Oh, that's interesting.
Meanwhile, regular people who just became blind recently, they don't know how to do anything. So anyway, at this camp, as you would expect, like Animal Farm, the blind guy with all the power turns into an evil dictator. And even in this movie, sex becomes a currency.
Oh,
you know
okay.
what I mean?
Yeah.
For the blind people, which is weird that the first thought that people have when a woman shows up after a long time is that, oh, I can't read what she's thinking. You know what I mean? Like,
that's what I was saying. I was like, everybody's like, there are no women. There are no women here. And I'm like, okay.
How about, hey, she ain't got no wiener. Let's go see what's up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't know, man. Like, I thought the same thing. My mind immediately went to, oh, man. Like, maybe because I just think of the realism of it all. Like, if this is a post-apocalyptic scenario and there are no women, and suddenly a woman shows up, ooh, that's not going to go well.
It seems like in every post-apocalyptic version of anything, a woman is,
immediately subjugated.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Just think Mad Max.
And maybe that's why not this movie. Maybe they're trying a different approach to it. But I just think that biologically it just doesn't work like that.
The movie's clearly going to be like PG-13. If it was rated R, I'm sure they would have gone with a different approach. But this is based off of a best-selling novel that I promise you is directed towards a younger audience. That's what I'm gathering.
That seems like Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley. That's definitely a younger audience. But check out Blindness too, by the way.
It sounds good. I want to check it out.
It's good. Laura Linney can see. She's immune. So she's immune to this disease.
Oh, so that's kind of where the plot takes off.
So she can. So she becomes kind of a secret weapon against this evil faction. So, but it's really good. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't want to hate on it right away. It's the premise seems silly to me.
I agree. And who knows? Maybe they might bring us back in with some other trailers, but this one didn't really do it for me. The next trailer that we have is One Night in Miami, which immediately when I read the description of this, I said, oh man, is this going to be like a feel-good kind of like, this actually happened, kind of mixing history kind of thing. I watched the trailer and I was like, this looks awesome.
When I saw the title, I thought initially it was a bachelorette party who lost a shoe and we're going to spend the rest of the night looking for it.
Totally.
But I was completely floored by how great it looks and interested because it's a Regina King movie.
Exactly. That also threw me off when I saw directed by Regina King at the end of the trailer because I was like, oh man, that's that's even more different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes.
So the film takes place during a time that apparently happened. I didn't know this happened, where Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke all were in essentially the same place at the same time. And judging by the trailer, it's going to be a real, like, inspirational film for, I would assume, the African American community. Like, it just seems really uplifting.
You know, it's interesting because, and this is kind of one of those things, like it's borderline for us to talk about because it's not really our, you know,
It's not for us.
It's not. It is for us because
it is. But,
there's a lesson. There's a lesson for us in it. But
totally.
You know, it's weird for, white guys like us to sit around invoking things like black excellence,
Totally.
which is like a concept that they talked about. I just watched the Fresh Prince reunion.
Right. I haven't watched it yet. How was it?
It's awesome. And they talked about that, and it's not about money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's about family, and it's about excelling and things like that. And you look at these the four guys that they have chosen are four guys that, but two of them have been played in either Academy Award winning or nominated roles.
Right.
So right away you're talking about really big shoes to fill as far as a movie goes. And the guy that got to play Malcolm X, I thought it was interesting because whenever you see Malcolm X portrayed, they don't necessarily nail his appearance because he had red hair.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they got it. They nailed him on this one.
I was going to say, I'm looking at the poster right now. Like, all these guys look pretty spot on.
Yeah, and most of these guys, a guy like Jim Brown is a guy who's been a activist and a guy that's been, in the struggle for generations and still is, you know what I mean? So this is like this looks like a great movie. Honestly,
I agree.
And in real life, if you were able to sit and watch Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown chop it up, that would be like the greatest conversation just to sit and watch.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to participate in it. I would just want to hear them talk.
Totally.
And hear their experiences because you guys like that who have experienced things that frankly are horrific that thankfully we've never had to endure ourselves, and hopefully people in the future won't have to. But to see them overcome all of that, to be forgiving of all of that, and to become the greatest in their individual fields,
I know.
Is so inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And it should be like, it looks like a great movie. Like, it looks like they did a wonderful job casting. And those men's stories, those individual men's stories are all worthy of watching. So to see them all together will be amazing.
And also, I like this turn that I think Hollywood in general is making, where I feel like we are now getting a lot more representational films, which is what honestly we need, because it shows these inspirational figures and people that others can look up to in such a good and big light. And these are four very real characters we can go to. Like Black Panther was one thing because he's a superhero that's kids can look up to as like, there's a superhero who looks like me. These are people who actually like existed, which is somehow even scales beyond. You know what I mean? It's so incredible.
Jim Brown and Muhammad Ali both were considered superheroes. I mean, there was a comic book of Muhammad Ali versus Superman.
That's so awesome.
You know what I mean? And and Muhammad Ali won. You know what I mean? Like it's you talk about people to look up to. I mean, that's what you've got here.
It's incredible. It really is.
It looks good. I'm interested to see I'm interested to see what it's about. And
this is an Amazon Prime film that's coming out on Christmas Day, which is
awesome.
Very appropriate.
Christmas Day gonna be busy.
Christmas Day is gonna be busy, and that's actually going to be our first news topic for today. You ready to get into some news?
Let's do it.
So our first story is pretty big in the movie industry. Wonder Woman 1984, is coming to HBO Max and theaters, but the fact that it's coming to HBO Max on Christmas Day kind of takes out the whole theaters aspect. It will be coming to select theaters December 16th, but it will be coming to HBO Max on Christmas Day. Do you think it's going to get really that much interaction in the theater then?
9 days. I could see it. I could see him doing. I could see him doing 60, 70 million opening weekend.
You think so?
Yeah.
And
if they do 60, 70 million opening weekend, and then whatever HBO Max paid them to be on, you're going to be doing all right, and people are going to trickle in. Here's the thing: there's a lot of factors going on right now. So number one, there are 2 vaccines that are close. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's a huge factor. There is also the chance that we might be headed towards another lockdown.
Yeah, it's
so
really an interesting time in general for not only movies but theaters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is, I think, the safest route they went with, given the area we're in.
If you want your movie out this year, this is, I think, what you have to do.
Absolutely. Totally. And even Marvel made a statement. They're like, yeah, we have no plans to release Black Widow on Disney Plus or anything. We're waiting for a theatrical release. And granted, I'm sitting over here going, that's what I want. But also, like, there was a story a couple days ago before this came out where they were saying, yeah, we're in talks to release it early in theaters or on a streaming service. And I said, I want them to wait for a summer release because I want to see this movie on a big screen. I really want to see Wonder Woman on a big screen. I'm probably just going to watch it on HBO Max now that it's coming to it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, they want to start to work on the next thing. Totally. And they can't do that until this comes out and starts to run its course.
Right.
So, honestly, I will watch it on HBO Max too. I found out that I get HBO Max as part of my subscription through Xfinity.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like it doesn't cost me anything.
Oh, that's great.
So I've been like watching the shit out of it the last couple of days.
There's a lot of good stuff on there.
In fact, that's where my recommendation is going to come from today.
Oh, cool.
So,
should I recommend something from HBO Max? I'm going to recommend something from HBO Max. Well, because now that I know you have it, now I can push this on you. Go ahead.
So so you got Wonder Woman, Soul, and now this movie, One Night in Miami, coming out on Christmas. Yep.
All different streaming services too. HBO Max's big one is going to be Wonder Woman. Disney Plus is going to be Soul, a Pixar film. And now Amazon Prime is going to be One Night in Miami. Those are some heavy hitters.
I feel like once this, here's the thing that sucks is like it sucks that movie theaters have to take this hit and we can't help them when it comes. Because I don't want the movie theater industry to die.
No,
I don't want that because I love going to the theater, and I think that a lot of people do. But right now, it's just such an uncertain time.
Yeah.
That and these guys, at some point, these big entertainment giants, they have to start writing these things off and getting them out however they can because they need to. First of all, they want to sell toys. They want to sell, merchandising. They want to move on to the next property. So that's what they're going to have to start doing. Now, we'll see how this works out. We'll see. This is going to be a big because this is like the first that I can think of major release coming out that's not coming out with extra money because this is included. You don't have to pay extra to get Wonder Woman like you had to do with Mulan.
Exactly.
This will just be part of your HBO Max, and it's because HBO Max a while ago absorbed the DC property, whatever their streaming service was.
DC Universe Online or
whatever it was called.
Whatever it was called. DC Plus. I don't know.
DC Shoes. They have all of the DC properties, and and it's one of the wonderful things about HBO Max is because I have access to a lot of those animated films.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of those animated films are really, really good.
better than any live action DC they've ever put out.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty crazy, and you know, like you said, I don't want theaters to go away. And granted, I don't think they will. There's still going to be a market for them. But if this is the end of like wide-scale movie theaters, pretty sucks. Sucks pretty much.
I mean, you know, there's something to be said for the world resetting as far as the way we do things. So maybe the Cineplex, maybe the Superplex is gone,
yeah.
but places like Sunray, you know,
Sunray.
single and double screen theaters, drive-ins, those things that are awesome might come back, and that also might be kind of cool to see that.
This place in Maitland, Florida that I used to go to a lot, it was the Enzian Theater. They were very similar to Sunray in that they would play occasionally like indie films or just replay classics. And one of my best movie theater experiences was at the Enzian Theater, where I got this huge meal and I watched the Iron Giant's like something anniversary, and I was like the only adult there that didn't bring their kids. You know what I mean? And I'm just sitting here like, oh, I love this movie so much, and I get to see it on the big screen. It was just so nice. And like that's an experience that I feel like people would pay a lot of money to do, regardless of it being a massive release of a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I remember one time for the Lord of the Rings, when the Return of the King came out, we did this thing where I can't remember what we paid. I think it was something like $80 or some shit like that, but we watched the director's cuts of the first two movies.
Oh, God. Oh, no.
And that took us up to midnight at the release of the new movie, to which we also watched the director's cut of that. We were there, I would say, something like 14 hours.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sure they did an intermission between the first two.
They did, and the second one,
right?
And you got free food, you got pizza, you had all the drinks you could drink, all the pretzels and pizza you could eat.
Each of those director's cuts is 4 hours, so yeah, like 14 hours sounds about right.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was one of those things where I mean, I'm not even really that into Lord of the Rings.
I love the Lord of the Rings.
I like the movies and stuff. I did read, I believe I read The Hobbit, but
great book.
It's just one of those things where like my buddies were doing it, and I was like, all right, I'll go.
But the thing is, like, even though you weren't a huge fan of the Lord of the Rings, that is a movie theater experience that is like brag worthy.
Totally,
you know?
Totally, and that's my point. That's my point of like, you know, you go to. I guess my point is you go to Sunray, and they got the best popcorn. You know what I mean? They got
I love their popcorn.
Their popcorn's killer, and they got a popcorn dressing bar. You know, with all the different, nutritional yeast and Parmesan and pepper and all the different stuff, and you know, boutique movie experiences may be what we have moving forward.
Yeah, we should get Sunray to sponsor the podcast.
They will not.
They will not.
Although we were thinking about going, because they're doing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and They Live tomorrow.
Oh, that sounds great.
At the drive-in.
Yeah.
So we were thinking about going to that because, I feel like that'd be fun. And the wife's never seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh my God, has she seen They Live? Are you seeing both of them?
No. See, that's the thing. Like, I don't know if she'd really be into it, but for me, that's one of my favorite all-time movies.
I love They Live.
It's such a cult classic.
I am here to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
But you, lady, your face looks like you fell in the cheese dip. Oh, it's so good.
I love that movie.
It's so
watch
good.
They Live if you haven't seen They Live. It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, our next news story, we'll run through it pretty quick because we really want to talk about The Mandalorian today. We have Pink Panther. So MGM Studios is working on a new Pink Panther film, which immediately when I started reading that, I was like, oh, all right, I guess this is happening again. But they're doing an interesting take on it. So they're not doing the, who is it, Steve Martin? Was he the last Inspector Clouseau?
Was that Pink Panther? Is that the Hamburger?
That one, yeah. But it was like there wasn't really a Pink Panther. He just he chased after the gem, the Pink Panther.
yeah, I was gonna say none of the movies have ever actually included a Pink
Exactly,
Panther.
you know, but this one, because they're trying to like mix the two of the live action movies and the cartoon, this one is supposed to be a very smooth talking inspector has a traumatic event that leads him to see an imaginary Pink Panther that like messes with him, but also helps him solve cases. Are we interested in this premise?
I'm more interested in that than I was in the original ones. I'll tell you
Thank
that.
you. Because the
Yeah.
moment I saw that they were going to incorporate the cartoon Pink Panther, I was like, all right, I'm in.
You know, I used to watch Pink Panther the cartoon all the
Yeah.
time. Pink Panther and Cool Cat. That was the two that was paired up.
Yeah.
And it was such a the Pink Panther cartoon and Cool Cat too, but we're not talking about Cool Cat. Were such like 60s and 70s drug fueled cartoons. Like the guy that was doing them was just sitting around, just high as a kite,
Just
woo!
coming up with
And,
cartoon ideas.
yeah, and so and I'm in for it, man. I'm here for it. I'll check it out. I like I said, much more interested than the regular movies.
I completely agree. The film is planned. We don't know if this is going to be live action or not. I imagine it will be. It'll probably be like the Tom and Jerry CGI, where it'll be live action, and then the imaginary Pink Panther friend is CGI kind of deal. But we do know that the director of this film is what? How do you say his last name? Jeff Fowler, who is the guy who directed the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And you know, I've seen that movie twice, and it's passable. It's a fine movie, so I definitely think there's a lot of promise with this.
Cool.
You know, but okay, I think that's gonna do it for some news. Let's get into our recommendations before we get into our Mandalorian talk. So, Tank, what are you recommending today from HBO Max?
Okay, so I don't know if this falls within the realm of what we normally do or how this is supposed to work, but I'm going with a documentary today because we happened to catch this. It's called Class Action Park.
Class Action Park. Okay.
It's about a real live theme park that existed in Jersey from the early '80s until the mid '90s, where they had so many lawsuits and so many because there were really no rules. Like you could do whatever.
Oh wait, is this the movie that well like
Action Point was based off of.
Action Point based off of this real life
Yes.
place? Okay, cool. I was making sure. This documentary I saw commercials for and it looks really good.
Dude, it's so good. It's at times it's funny and like, you know, you're just like, that's crazy. But then like later you like, oh my god, that's horrifying. You know what I mean? Like there's but it also like that's like it kind of shows the duality of all the people involved. And just a really interesting watch. Just a super interesting watch. If you get a chance, check it out. It's something else, man. You know, they tell about they would try out new rides because the rides weren't designed by professionals. It was just like somebody would get a crazy idea for a ride, they'd hire people to build it, and then they'd tweak it until it was less dangerous. And there was a slide that was literally a loop. You would slide around it, and they had to like adjust it a bunch of times because people came out of it unconscious. People would get stuck in it. There was a pad right by the top, and there was a trap door in case people got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And the pad was filled with people's teeth that had gotten stuck.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that.
Dude, it's wild. And it's like, it's full of stories like that. People just getting thrashed. And just, since it's Jersey, everybody was like, just get up, you bitch. You know what I mean? Like, dude, it's a great watch.
Very interesting.
It's super interesting.
Okay, well, I'm going to change my answer now to an HBO Max property specifically because now that I know you have HBO Max, I can push you to watch these films. You specifically, Tank. Anybody else who hasn't seen these should watch these. But Tank, you're a fan of Pixar, correct?
I love it, yeah.
Occasionally, I think on this podcast, I have talked about what I like to refer to as the Japanese Pixar. It is called Studio Ghibli. Mm-hmm. They make some of the greatest animated films you will ever see. They do come from Japan, but then I believe all the versions you can find on HBO Max are not only English subtitled or dubbed. There are plenty of dubbed versions, and most of them are very good, and they have some pretty good names attached to them. So I have 2 I can offer you,
Okay.
and I got them both in my head, so I want you to pick 1 or 2, and then that'll be my offer for this week.
Let's go 2.
2. So for 2, we're going to do Princess Mononoke. Princess Mononoke is a awesome animated film where it's essentially supposed to be taking place in a kind of like pre-medieval, like Japanese era land where dark spirits are also controlling like animals. But the plot takes over when this village guy, I'm trying to remember his name, he kills a dark spirit, but it attaches himself to him. So he's trying to go, he gets banished from his village, and he tries to find somebody to cure the demon that's going to, like, kill him. But in the meantime, he's getting involved with all these other villages' wars and their problems, and the demon essentially gives him these crazy powers, like, just through its strength. And right off the bat, and this is an animated film that many people showed their kids, he's, like, aiming his bow back, and then suddenly his, like, hand starts, like, freaking out because it's so strong, and he goes with the arrow, and it takes a dude's head off. It's crazy! And it's really good! And, like, these movies are so freaking good. Not all of them are as graphic. A lot of them are really sweet and, like, really heartfelt. This one, I think, is just the most of both. It's heartfelt, but it's also just badass in so many regards. And I think out of the 2 that I thought in my head, I think you would probably like Princess Mononoke the best.
You're so excited.
It's so good. Like, Studio Ghibli films are so great, and it took me up until college to start watching them. And then when I did start watching, like, the first couple of ones, I was like, give me more. Just give me more. They're so good.
All right. I
So
like
please, they're all, not all of them, but there's a lot of them on HBO Max. And most of them, at least all the ones I've seen on there, are stellar.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Please do.
I will.
All right, so we're going to break into our review of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode, what is this, 4? Are we on 4 already?
I believe we're on 4.
God, I'm upset that it's going so quickly.
That's the way it goes, baby. That's the world keep a spinning.
It keeps on spinning. So we're going to break right into spoilers. So if you have not watched the episode, please go watch it and come back. It just came out today, and boy, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Let me tell you. Yeah.
You really liked it?
I did. I loved it, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I was so anxious because I thought somebody was going to sell him out. The entire episode in my head, I'm thinking, somebody's setting up the Mandalorian for something.
Is it? Okay, so we're going into spoilers. Did you think it was the blue guy, Mithril or whatever his name is?
No, I was thinking it was Gina Carano or.
You thought she was gonna betray him?
Maybe.
Or Carl Weathers?
Or Carl Weathers.
Wow.
Because Carl Weathers, he's the guy that's in it for the money.
That's
a lot
true.
of the time. You know what I mean? So, and maybe Gina Carano, she's interested in keeping the peace and making, so like, I mean,
It'd be
who's
interesting
not?
if they went with that.
If let me tell you something. If you can convince Billy D. Williams to turn on everybody, you can convince either of those two to turn on everybody.
That is a very interesting point.
The guy with the gills, who's Horatio Sands.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already kind of a questionable character, so he's not. That's too obvious of a choice.
Sure.
Because somebody definitely selling him out.
Going off of the somebody's gonna sell him out topic, I want to focus on Blue Man. He was pointless in that entire episode.
Yeah, really. He was just a MacGuffin.
I loved him. Or I'm sorry, I didn't love him. I loved this episode so much. I loved everything about it. But the entire time I was like, why is he here? Like, there's moments where they're like, get the door, and then Mando gets the door. Like, he does nothing the entire episode. Or we need you to hack into that console. Here, use this thing that's just the code to it that I found, that you didn't find. I found it.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
No, it was a weird thing to include him in all that.
I felt like he was supposed to be like the comedic relief, but he wasn't funny in my opinion. Like none of his stuff, like he was like, "Don't you know I have a fear of heights and lava?" And I'm like, "Go on,
Yeah,
please."
everybody's afraid of lava.
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, honestly, in like a very perfect episode, he just felt very out of place. There was a point where, because Carl Weathers was like on him the entire time, just like, shut up and do it, and I'll take 30 years off your sentence. And then they get into that tank thing at the end, and then Carl Weathers is like, "Oh, man, the gun." And I'm like, I'm surprised he wasn't like, "You man the gun." And he's like, "I don't wanna. I've got a fear of guns." And he's like, "Shut up and I'll take 100 years off your sentence." That's what I was expecting the whole episode to go through. But no, Carl Weathers took command. And my thought was, this blue guy is pointless this entire episode. Carl Weathers can't hit anything in this gunner. But this blue guy knows what this thing is, this tank. What if the blue guy took control to save his own life and the two by taking over the gunner, and he destroyed the TIE fighters coming in? I would have been like, cool, he did something. Now I don't hate that he was on this episode. Nope, he was just there the rest of the time. I don't know.
Yes, silliness.
Very silliness.
Good, great episode. Outside of that, though, I
totally.
mean,
that is legitimately the only nitpicky complaint I have about this episode. Everything else was like so amazing.
Things are starting to come together. Did it look like Snoke in the background to you?
Thank you. That's what I was thinking too. I think they're trying to allude to that Moff Gideon's like plan is to carry out the Emperor's wishes in cloning him.
Is this how we find out who Snoke is?
Well, because we already know Snoke is Emperor Palpatine. He just controlled him. Like, he was just another version of Emperor Palpatine. That's what Rise of the Skywalker told us. Because when we see Emperor Palpatine at the beginning of Rise of the Skywalker, we see, like, containers, big containers with Snoke in it. Like, with all these different Snoke, like, clone bodies in it.
Oh, it's just a puppet.
He's a puppet, I believe, controlled by Emperor Palpatine. So what I'm gathering is that they literally need to create this new vessel for Emperor Palpatine to control, but the vessel has to be able to use the Force, which is why they need the child. And they straight up said the M count, which I was like, midichlorians! They said midichlorians!
So wait, does that mean that they're going to get him because they end up with a Snoke?
I think we're supposed to now think that. We're supposed to now go, oh, that's supposed to be Snoke, and we know Snoke exists, so at some point, they're getting Baby Yoda. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Baby Yoda in this episode, it's like they forgot about his whole, like, he's a evil bastard, and they just went, let's make him the cutest thing ever in this episode specifically.
Yeah, they made him cute again, especially in the closing scenes, the dog fight. He's like, yee!
He's got his hands
and when
up.
he was putting the wires in, he's like,
no, put the red one in the blue socket. And I'm like, Mando, you're confusing me. He's not gonna understand any of this.
I mean, that's a baby. He's like,
baby.
What did you think was gonna happen?
Anytime. So I watch all of these episodes with subtitles on.
Mm.
Do you watch them with subtitles?
I do, not on purpose, but
I do, because in case I miss something, I can catch it immediately. Every time Baby Yoda says something and it goes, "coos," I'm like, because he's literally going like, ah, and I'm like, yay, Baby Yoda's being baby. He stole that dude's cookies. And I was like, screw that dude for not giving him a cookie in the first place.
Well, I mean, it's his cookies.
Yeah, sure. Give him one. You don't need to give him all.
He didn't want one. He wanted them all. I'm surprised he didn't kill everybody to get those cookies. Little sociopath.
Could you imagine? Man, that's what we missed when Mando goes back to, like, save Baby Yoda, because he's like, Gideon could be after him. I'll meet you guys there. And he flies off of the jetpack. The next scene is him coming into that classroom, and it's the robot teacher still teaching the class covered in blood and all the kids around him. And then Baby Yoda just sitting in the middle going, ah, eating a cookie.
Eating the eyeballs. Of the
No. That's too much. And then, yeah, he's eating the eyeballs, and Mando just picks him up and goes, no, don't do that.
Have they said anything about the Gina Carano controversy going on right now?
So I've been seeing it on Twitter. I don't think they've said anything about it. Which, for those who don't know, it's just essentially, it's kind of a cancel culture kind of vibe where, what is it? She's been openly like against like trans people? Is that what it is?
I think there's been like several things. I think there's been a lot of things, you know, that go against the cancel culture. So, and she's continually antagonizing them, and they're coming after her. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere because it's Disney, and well, or it could go somewhere because it's Disney. I don't know.
See, that's what's surprising to me. Is that Disney hasn't done anything. You know what I mean?
They haven't said anything or anything like that.
I mean,
out of curiosity, I looked at Twitter after I watched the episode and did hashtag Mandalorian just to see what people were saying, because I knew after seeing the controversy, I knew the next episode we were going to see of her was probably going to be pretty big on Twitter, and I saw basically nothing on Twitter. Now, maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. Maybe people were really just focused more on the episode itself. But I saw like no hate trending for her today when the episode came out.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, it could just be one of those things.
It could be a short-lived one.
I was just curious because I hadn't heard anything about, you know, I've heard a lot of people going back and forth, taking different sides, but I hadn't heard anything from the actual showrunners or anything.
No, so, I don't think they've said anything, which, I mean, they probably wouldn't want to say anything or handle anything at least until the season's over.
Yeah, she's not a co-star. She's a side character. If suddenly she didn't show up in the next season, I'm sure that would be their approach. But regardless, she's going to be in it for the rest of this recent future or this distant future. Right. So, but other than, you know, that blue guy, I did not have any complaints with the episode at all. I think all of it was very well done. Moff Gideon at the end was standing in a room covered in what seems to be like power armor for stormtroopers. Like, it looks very interesting where we're going. Yeah, we're going somewhere cool, I could tell.
And then apparently it's already been confirmed and revealed that the next episode's title is called The Jedi. So, here we go! I'm so ready. This is what I've been waiting for. We're going to get some Ahsoka Tano. I'm such a Star Wars nerd. I will say, halfway through the episode, while they were just going through that base, shooting at stormtroopers, I was just like, I love Star Wars. I just love all of this. I love all of this. They're doing it so well.
It's a great show, and each episode is better than the last, which is unbelievable, really.
Honestly, I have no idea. I have no idea how it could get even better, and it will.
But it will.
I'm excited. I'm super excited for the next episode. I think it's going to be incredible.
It sucks to wait.
It does. It really does. Even though I kind of like it too. I feel like the build is also what makes these episodes better.
Possible.
I don't know. I'm super excited for the next one. Tank, we haven't even talked about what we're doing next week because next week is Thanksgiving. This. Oh
yeah.
Are you gonna be in town?
I'll be in town.
I'll be in town.
We do a holiday movie.
Oh yeah, we could.
My wife is making me watch a whole lot of bullshit holiday movies. So
well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
But I'm also gonna be here Friday, so we could do an episode that day. Let's do it.
I'm down.
Let's do it. Mandalorian episode The Jedi coming out the day after Thanksgiving. We will be full and happy. And I am ready for it.
I'll just be Jabba the Hutt. Jiggy, diggy, diggy.
Ooda, Booda, Jedi. So ready. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Tank, how you feeling?
I feel great, man. I love the show. I love talking. Good day.
I do know you love talking.
I do.
Well, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube. We're at No Talking During the Movies on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe on there and follow us on Instagram, because on Instagram we will tease great things of the episodes to come.
Oh.
We also... Nope, not that kind of tease. Watch the YouTube to see what Tank just did. But then we also put up our recommendations as well, and I promised you last week, or the last episode, that we would have Jexy and Spider-Verse in the same picture, and we did it. It looks awful, but we did it. So be ready for this week for Class Action Park. and Princess Mononoke. I couldn't remember what I said. Because I still have my other original recommendation down here. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I am your host, Stephen Austin.
I am your co-host, Tank.
And we will see you guys next week for The Jedi. Woo! What?